Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict Live. Good to be back here. Good to see you, Ross.
It's wonderful to be back.
I know it's been a while since we have met with our viewers, so good to see you guys, all of you. So we're so excited to be here. We're gonna just talk briefly about some housekeeping stuff, and we're gonna jump into the global headlines like we always do. Then we address our topic. Then we're gonna open the floor for your questions. And like as always, if you can just put question before so we know it's question. So anyway, some housekeeping stuff. Pardon me. We're gonna be moving not all of it, but some of our live stream here. We're gonna be moving it to Rumble. So we're gonna be doing some there because we can. You guys know why. No need to beat the dead horse. You know, we all know the reason why. But for our YouTube platform, we're gonna be releasing about 2 videos a week that will be well-polished videos. So we're gonna do a lot of research before we present those videos. It's gonna be a little bit slightly different from what we used to do before, because there will be a lot of sort of involvement into them as far as maps and all that. So we're gonna be doing that, releasing about 2 a week. As we said, we're gonna keep some of this live stream once a while, but most of it is gonna move into the Rumbles. That means we will count on you to support us on the other platforms. We're still with these videos we're gonna do here. We're gonna have some very interesting assessments and analysis we're gonna provide. But if you want a deep dive into all this, we have them on the other platforms because we can talk freely there. And we do dive deeper with our members.
I mean, we get to say what we really think.
We really think you're right. So that's what we're gonna be doing. And of course, your suggestions are always welcome because it's because of you guys. That's where we are today. So yes, we noticed that the numbers some sort of stagnant regarding the 70 million subscribers.
Oh
well, such life. It is what it is. We're doing our best. Just we want you to know, guys, there is a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, and I am sure you are aware of it. This doesn't happen overnight. So enough said of that.
What do you think? Headlines?
Let's do it,
All
Ross.
right. This is so interesting. Eileen Gu, the Chinese-American freestyle skier who won the big air gold for China this week, has become one of Beijing's 2022 key figures.
Well, indeed, because of her background story. She was born in San Francisco, so she's an American by birth. Her mom is a Chinese, her dad is an American, but she made the decision to compete for China. That I don't see the reason why all of a sudden the media here, getting on, like, let her be. She wanted to compete for that. Her mom is Chinese. She didn't even know about the background of her mom till she started finding out certain things. And she's fluent in Mandarin, by the way, when I found out. And that's what she decided to compete for. And why not?
Well, the news media has to talk about something.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't see much conflict or controversy there, but let's make
Let's
controversy.
make a controversy
Yeah,
of
controversial.
that.
Oh, this is a good one. China has again endorsed Argentina's claims over the Falkland Islands.
Oh my gosh, that's very important. As a matter of fact, that's our topic we're going to be talking about today.
We're going to do a deep dive of that.
Yeah, and that's why we put the title, US and UK are so pissed that Argentina decided to go with the BRI. But this Falkland is part of the why UK is very, very mad. And we will detail this later on when we talk about the topics today, or the topic today.
Sergei Lavrov, Russia's veteran foreign minister, said that meeting Liz Truss was like talking to a deaf person.
Well, yeah, if you know the background story, she's clueless. And I'll say it, I don't diminish her, as a human being. I have the respect for human beings, but when it comes down to foreign policy stuff and diplomacy and all that, she's clueless about what she was talking about. Well, basically, what it has to do with one particular statement, is that she said that UK or the West will not recognize when Lavrov asked her a question, and the question was, will London recognize Moscow's sovereignty over the regions of Rostov and Voronezh? And it took her a while to answer because she was shocked by the question. Well, Lavrov is well-seasoned diplomat, so it was a reason for it. So when she replied that the UK will never recognize Russia's sovereignty over these regions, which was very bad because the ambassador of UK in Russia stepped in behind the scenes and told her, no, we do recognize certain sovereignty for the Russians. So right there it became, that's the reason why Lavrov used the term deaf.
Yeah. He could have used the word absolutely ignorant and ill-informed and incompetent, but he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't. I'm sure you know why, Ross, he didn't use the term, because diplomatic protocol would not allow him to, not allow him, but it will make more sense not to use something. But you're absolutely correct. That's the right terminology for it. So
that's what we normal people would call it.
Exactly. So that was the reason why.
Ready for more news about the Quad?
Oh yeah.
Okay. U.S., India, Japan, Australia met in Melbourne.
As a matter of fact, they met today. It's morning for us, which means it was to them yesterday. So yeah, they met there. But here's what I found very interesting: is the statements by the PM Morrison, and I'm gonna share it with you because I'm gonna quote it. Morrison, we all know he lied so many times, and Australians are coming now to realize it's not a laughing matter. You know, we're not laughing here because it's laughing matter. It's not. It's just the fact that now Australians are waking up to this reality of the guy's been lying to us about all this. So his statements in the opening talks by emphasizing the group importance of building cooperation between democracies, you know, that share the same orientation. We all know what it means without using the term, but if you have to think about democracies, so what happened to censorship?
Yeah.
What happened to other stuff? So that was the whole reason for why the Quad, it came nothing but just posturing. So it has no significance. We all know it. Same with the AUKUS. There's no significance for them. All those from an international or geopolitical perspective, those are nothing but posturing. That's all it is. That's the bottom line to it. So,
well, enough of that. Let's go to something that really has a punch in the guts.
Yeah.
For anyone who's really paying attention.
Yeah, something that's going to change the geopolitical dynamics.
It's en route right now.
It is indeed.
Argentina and China and the Belt and Road Initiative. Wow.
Indeed, that's a big, to those who say, oh, no, this is nothing. It's just a matter of economic. Wrong. This is a seismic change.
Yeah.
And for major reasons, we're going to detail with you guys. But just to give you a background how this happened for those of you who are not aware of what happened. During the official opening ceremony of the Olympics, the Beijing Olympics, which was last Friday on the 4th, President Xi met with the head of states individually, and they had a banquet later on. But what took interest, because he met with Kazakhstan, with Turkmenistan, with Egypt, with Russia, of course, you name it. Well, one of them was Argentina. So Alberto Fernandez, the president of Argentina, signed a memorandum of understanding with China. And the memorandum of understanding talks about major project. You're talking about $23 billion worth of project.
But it's only hydroelectric and infrastructure, roads, rail, anti-epidemics, and more. It's only those trivial things.
Yeah, you're right. Because what they do to the economy. But here is the thing, just for you to put this in perspective. Why is this important? And why we decided to even address this topic? And why the US and UK get so mad now at Argentina.
Yeah.
Well, they're not mad at Argentina because of just China deal. No. They are mad for other reasons also. Well, one of them, from the US perspective, if we are to put our analyst hats, which what we're going to do, is for the US, that is a major push against its influence in the Western Hemisphere.
Oh, you talk about major.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what brings to mind? It brings the Monroe doctrine.
That little thing.
If you guys aware of what the Monroe doctrine is all about.
In 1823, President James Monroe warned the nations of Europe that the U.S. would not tolerate further colonization or puppet governments in Latin America. This was, of course, U.S. colonial policy.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah. And basically what it said is, don't you dare interfere in our colonial power.
Exactly. And that was one of the reasons why the US get pissed. Beside the issue of China being involved. That is the reason. It has to do with the influence in the Western Hemisphere that the US is seeing it now losing grip. That's one. Okay. On the UK part, it has to do with none other than the Falkland.
Oh boy.
We all know what happened back in the 80s, the war between the UK and Argentina. I remember I was in Spain, believe it or not. Or I was around that area. And I remember when the statement was made by the then Margaret Thatcher, the former prime minister, said, we're going to fight the Argentinians and all that stuff. And they were surprised to see how hard the Argentinians pushed back. So what made now the UK pissed about this also is because China recognized the sovereignty of Argentina over the Falkland.
I have a sort of a funny but not funny story
about
that. I was intensely studying Spanish at the time, and my tutor was Argentine. And so she was deeply involved in what was really going on. And she said, okay, well, the cost of the war would have given every person in the Falkland Islands more than $1 million in that time. And as a result of this war, the life quality in the Falkland Islands dramatically decreased. They were real unhappy about it. For example, hospitalization went away. So
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this is why the UK is pissed. But here is the thing, guys, that as I said again, I'll put my analyst hat and provide you a brief analysis onto what it all means moving forward. So you think about it from two tracks. One is economic, of course, and one is geopolitical. Well, the economic is as important as you can even imagine. Why? Because economy, when you think geopolitically, you always have to think about the instruments that you can use to influence countries one direction or another. The economy, financial tools are all those are tools you can use to influence the direction. And this is why this will be analyzed on two tracks. One is the economy, and one is geopolitical. So economically speaking, and we're not going to get into the weed of what was in the clause. I had a chance to look at the content of the memorandum of understanding that China signed and what's involved as far as the projects that you mentioned. But one of them that took my interest has to do with the power plant.
Oh, the nuclear power plant.
The nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
Why is that significant? For so many reasons, and I'm going to share some with you here. It's significant because not only the cost of the 7 or 8, as a matter of fact, it was about $8 billion.
Yes.
But here is what's important about it, is that, which the site, by the way, where this nuclear power plant is going to be in an area called Lima, which is in the north, just to get it ready, northwest of Argentinian capital, Buenos Aires. The interesting thing about this power plant, Ross, is that China is going to be using a specific technology called the Hulong, HUALONG.
Oh, how long?
One technology. And this is the HPR 1000 reactor. So all this is nuclear physics and whatever. We are not getting involved in that. But here is the thing about it, is that this particular power plant is going to produce about 1,200 megawatt of electricity, and its life shelf is 60 years. That's one aspect to it. The second aspect to this is that the Hulong 1 is the third generation nuclear technology that China is deploying outside China, because Argentina is the only other country beside Pakistan that received this technology. So China went ahead and built a nuclear power plant in Karachi, in Pakistan. And now Argentina is getting this. So this is the significance of the economic aspects of it. It's because Argentina wanted to move away from the United States.
And the IMF, International Monetary Fund,
they
owe $44 billion in that thing.
Exactly.
And the backstory is that the previous government from before Fernandez, they took that $44 billion and they squandered it.
Yeah.
And left him and the current government with this heavy debt.
Yeah. That was during the presidency of, her name is Kushner.
Mm.
She wasn't that, and at that time, this is why about a month and a half ago, there were demonstrations in Buenos Aires. And the reason why there were demonstrations, because Argentinians were pushing back against the IMF extending another loan. Because we all know what it means. If you want to control a country, control its finances. Argentinians had it because they went through this. They're still paying the debt from the 80s when they get the loan back then.
That was really a tragedy that went on. And one of the things that we saw is that everyone with any money in Argentina took it out of the country.
Yeah.
They had to. There's a story that I heard that I thought was true was a man went to see a psychiatrist. And at the end of the session, the psychiatrist called the central bank to find out what money was worth so he could know how to charge the guy. The currency was so unstable that it was changing hour by hour,
Wow.
the value.
Yeah, and that is part of the problem. Why now Argentina decided to embark with President Fernandez decided to embark on China's BRI. Because they don't want to be living in that anymore. They want to move on. Here's the thing. When I was a kid, Russ, I used to hear about Buenos Aires, how it used to be like the Paris of Latin America. Because they were doing great back in the 70s.
Not anymore.
Yeah, till we kind of started to see the changes. So from an economic perspective, with all the infrastructure that China is going to be building there, and I'm not saying this to suggest that China is doing that for free. No, it's a business decision.
It's a business decision.
Yes.
And from what we can tell, and we hear this from multiple sources, China really does look for win-win scenarios with these things.
Yeah, so in this case of Argentina, economically speaking, is going to pave the way. The way I see it playing out moving forward is that Argentina is going to now open the gate for other Latin American countries like Brazil, like Chile. Ecuador already signed a deal with China. Peru, if you only know about the natural resources underground in Peru. And I will even go as far as saying maybe Mexico too.
Maybe Panama.
Yeah. So you can just see where it's going economically speaking. So it's going to be a major shift economically speaking when it comes down to what this all means. This is not going to happen overnight, of course. It's going to take years. This is from the economic aspects of it. Geopolitically, that's another.
Oh my God.
That's another story altogether. But geopolitically, if you think about it, once again, I put my analyst hat and be comfortable in saying this is going to change the dynamics in the Western Hemisphere completely. Whether the West likes it or not, whether the US likes it or not. Why is this? It's because, as I mentioned at the beginning, is this really a significance to the death of the Monroe doctrine? Is it coming to absolute death? Maybe not. The second aspect of it is that will Argentina, and this is just a question for you guys to think about. As I always say, when you are an analyst, you're going to have to come up with scenarios.
Yeah.
Think outside the box. It doesn't matter. So, and it is in my training is you're going to have to come up with 4, 5, 6, 7 scenarios. Even though you might think, oh, no, there is no such thing, or there is no way this will happen. We know it might not happen, but the facts that you have to consider that. So here's the thing. If you are to think about it that way, with the change that geopolitical is going to create, and what I mean by this, would you consider, for example, that Argentina could become the gate for not only China, but Russia and Iran and other countries that are, their policies are different than the US, for Latin America to change in its entirety?
That is not unthinkable.
Yeah, it's logical arguments. I will personally say, by having Argentina embarked on this memorandum of understanding regarding these investments, because what leads after economic prosperity? Usually that's where politics comes in. And to me, the way I see it is that Argentina is going to open the gate in Latin America for other countries to start to think in terms of, is it time? Because economic prosperity is what counts.
A consideration here is that Argentina is commodities rich.
They are.
Citrus being a major
Yeah.
because they have a 12-month growing season. How about beef? How about pork? How about soybeans? How about other agricultural products for openers?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, consider this, that Argentina now is #1 exporter to China for soybeans and beef.
All right.
Yeah. Where China used to get soybeans from?
Oh, don't say Australia.
No,
we won't mention Australia.
Or maybe the US.
Oh, and maybe the U.S. Oh, my
used to
God.
get it from the US.
Oh, that's correct.
It's gone after the trade war. Yeah, that is the reason why I said it.
That was a big deal, too.
Exactly. So that is just the idea. And again, we're just highlighting here the changes within the dynamic or the global landscape as to what it means. So for you, this is one thing, if you can acquire and understand it. It's not enough just to have information. You have to understand what that information means to you. There are a lot of people that, oh yeah, I receive information, whatever. But do you understand it?
One of the things you say very frequently is context, context, context. Where does this fit into the overall scheme of things?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
and this is what we do for our members, Ross.
Yeah.
That's why we go into more depth, because we can provide that context as to how to understand something like this and what it means moving forward. Yes, you might think, well, this has nothing to do with me. Wrong. Because geopolitics, even though it's at the top, it trickles down to an average citizen. So, and this is it's important. So geopolitically speaking, we're going to be looking at changing directions for Latin America.
And we're looking at the dollar as a trade vehicle, or?
Yeah, that's another dimension to it, which enters into, like I said earlier, when you think about how to operate geopolitically, you always have to have instruments or tools to use. The financial aspects is going to become part of this.
Oh boy.
Why is this important for you to understand? Is because two events that just happened. One of them happened on Tuesday, and I did a video on it, by the way, on Locals, if you guys want to go check it out there. I will mention something here about it briefly. Well, one event is on Tuesday, and the events on Tuesday was that the Russian government decided to regulate cryptocurrency. What does it mean? Once again, you put your analyst hat and think, okay, why is Russia all of a sudden deciding to regulate it when only a few months ago they said, no, cryptocurrency could harm the stability of the Russian economy. They are preparing just in case there are tensions with the US regarding removing Russia from the global system. They will have something in place by which they can trade. What you add to this, Ross, is what China just did by launching CBDC. What's it called? CBDC, the crypto.
It's their own cryptocurrency.
The digital.
I can't remember what it is either.
The central banking digital currency.
There it is.
CBDC. So why is that important also? It's because both countries are seeing, because remember, if we are to talk about the multipolar system, which we are in, a word that is not used in the West, they won't even use it. Because the world is not a unipolar anymore. It's a reality now. Let's just accept the facts how they are. So those two countries thinking in terms of, it is time to set the financial structure by which project like the one in Argentina will be paid for in different currency other than the US dollar.
Matter of fact, we've even heard it. That's pretty well assured.
Mm-hmm.
So we pretty well can predict that's all not gonna happen. It's already happening.
It is. As a matter of fact, China has like trade with Pakistan in the yuan. Certain transactions with oil and oil transactions are done in different currency than the US dollar. So the way I see it playing out in the case of Argentina, because Argentina first will have to pay its debt.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to do, because they want to pay their debt and be done. And once they're done with the US dollar, now with those projects of the BRI, and even here's the interesting thing. When President Fernandez was in Beijing, after the opening ceremony, guess where he went after? He went to Moscow.
Good move.
Yeah. And he met with President Putin. what I found, and I had a chance to read the transcript of the visit because they had to issue statements. And one thing that caught my attention, one particular phrase, and I remember it. And all it was when President Fernandez said, Argentina will be the gate for Russia in Latin America. Now, if you cannot see the message in this, then you are missing something. And this is what I meant by it's not enough to just have information. You have to understand what it means.
You know, as I was watching Alberto Fernandez's speeches, and watching the translation of it and watching his body language, I was doing an analysis of what was really going on. Here, it appeared to me that, based on that information, that here he believes that China and Russia are the salvation of his country. He acted that way.
Wow. Yeah, he saw the opportunity. I mean, if you are a president, you know, if you become a president of a state, that becomes about the welfare of your people.
For him, it is.
Yeah. It's not about your ego. It's not about like what happened right now in Canada. Like ego stuff. It's not about your ego. It's not about your political career. It's not about your legacy. It's about the welfare of your people. If you truly want to be remembered in history, this is to me what the legacy is all about. Is what have you done for your people? That's like I always say, Ross. You know, what purpose do we have, you and I?
Yeah.
You know, we went through the academic process, get the PhD and all that stuff. So what? If we couldn't serve humanity by sharing the knowledge, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Because if I couldn't, the last day on this earth before I check out and ask myself is, what have I done for humanity? Doesn't matter at what level.
Well, we actually ask ourselves that every day.
Yeah.
And I like the answers we come up with.
Yeah, it's because that's the whole point. So for the Argentinian president, just to tie this back to the topic, he's doing it because he's seen where his country has been, where it became, and now he wants to move the direction. So I am sure, rest assured, the West is not going to let it go slightly because it's in the Western Hemisphere. But I think that it's too late for that.
The other powers of the world have become too strong.
Yeah, and the dynamics of that's how geopolitics is. You know, the world doesn't stay put.
Right.
Things have changed. You know, we went through 7-8 decades after World War II. It's coming to an end now. The dynamics have to change. It's just the norm, and it's part of how things work. So the way I see it is what to expect moving forward is you're going to see major changes, both economically and geopolitically, coming not only to Argentina, but Latin America. It's going to start with the major players. When I say players, I'm referring to Brazil, I'm referring to Chile, and I'm referring to a degree, it will be the idea of Uruguay, so. You won't say much, but still. If because anytime you think about Latin America, you think about Argentina, Brazil, and Chile.
Yeah.
You know, Panama to a degree, Peru to a degree, but you're gonna see those changes coming up. So this is what we wanted to address with you, just to give you that understanding, to understand what it means now that Argentina signed that memorandum of understanding with China regarding the $23 billion projects. That's going to be, I can't wait to see how this is going to translate on the ground into reality where Argentina is going to be moving in a different direction altogether.
Shall we open it for questions?
Let's do it. And I'm going to close my stuff here because I don't need it. All right. I'm going to wear my glasses here and see. Beryakov, good to see you, Beryakov. Question: recent China bold moves backing Russia in NATO's matter and backs Argentina on Falkland clarifies China in 2022 starting to show its teeth globally. Wow, that's an interesting comment.
It's a comment, and
And it's all right, so because that falls within the realm of what geopolitics is all about. Because what you are seeing, Beryakov, and to all of you guys, what you are witnessing is truly the shift of the world from a unipolar to a multipolar system. And the fact that China backs now Argentina on a Falkland and back to Europe regarding NATO, it says a lot. Does China want to show its teeth? I won't go that far that way. But the way I will translate that is that that's a subtle message from Beijing to the West, to NATO, to the US regarding Taiwan.
Absolutely right.
It's in a subtle way. Because remember, one thing China always does not want to attract attention near its periphery. Next question, Jonathan. Good to have you here, guy. With shifts of balance of power in Latin America, would the US be too busy to fix problems in American continent and change their approach to South China Sea? No. It won't work that way. The way it will work, if I am to guess, as one who's been in Washington, D.C. inside and understanding how the thinking is, the way I see it work, Ross, is that what Washington is going to try to do to ensure that the Monroe Doctrine stays alive.
Good luck.
Yeah, they won't have the ability for that. Why? Because by the time this economic project start to come up on the surface, because you're going to see this, you're going to see bridges, you're going to see highways, you're going to see some infrastructure, major one.
Right.
And by the time Russia comes in, because remember what Argentina said to Russia is that they want to open up Argentina as the gate to Latin America. So the way I see it, so the US, that's basically what they're going to try to do. The problem that the West has now, they have too many irons in the fires.
880. No, let's not even go there.
Yeah.
Too many irons in the fire.
Yeah.
Conflict in too many areas.
Yeah. And it won't work because the US will not be in a position to fight two-front wars. That it's a fact. R2C2, good to see you. Are China, Russia offering the countries of the world a safe haven from the US dominance over them?
Ooh.
What do you think, Ross?
I don't think it's a safe haven, not from the United States.
I couldn't agree more. It's not about that. And this is not about the world. It's about China and Russia. Why? Because they want to move away from the strangulation of the US, especially, for example, financial dominance. Right. This is why you see in the developments of the infrastructure, the financial infrastructure that's going to, in the case of Russia, regulating this cryptocurrency, that's going to take place by either this coming June or the beginning of next year. That's how fast they want to go with it.
That's the speed of light when you talk about financial institutions.
Exactly, yeah.
Transitions are typically years.
Yeah, and what's going to come with that is other countries going to start seeing now, okay, do we want to trade with, with Russia, China, whatever currency, or do we want to still be tied to? And that's why I don't see Russia and China doing this for the world. No, they're doing it for themselves first. Because remember, one thing you need to remember, in international relations, it's all about interests. What are our strategic interests? That's how countries around the world operate, no matter what you hear.
And that's what they should do.
Yeah, that's what they're going to be doing.
That's what you can trust.
Yep. Dakian-san, good to see you. Dakian, by the way, I saw his comments on locals.
Yeah.
He's there. Good to see you, Dakian. Question: what do you think about China's suggestion for Indian Ocean Islands Development Forum? Could it be related to the territorial dispute on Diego Garcia? I am not too familiar with that. I do know about Diego Garcia and what's in it, because that's part of the military, U.S. military installations, and why it is there. Same to Pine Gap in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
No, I am not too familiar with that. What I am very familiar with is that there is a conversation right now in Southeast Asia, for example, among ASEAN countries, like, for example, Philippines. And the conversation that's going on is it time to ask the US to leave Philippines?
Isn't that an interesting development? I was looking at that just the other day.
Yeah.
It looked like it's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's how I see it more. But to specifically the Diego Garcia, no, I am not too familiar with. I'd be happy to take a look at it, and I can send you the answer on the other platform when I get it. Shiro, good to see you, Shiro. It is true to see where a country lean into by seeing where the military budget is spent, since Indonesia recently purchased from the West. Does that mean we are leaning to the West? Well, Indonesia has always been, and I'll say it, I'm not going to shy away from saying that, Indonesia has always been under the thumb of the West, indirectly. Yeah, let's not sugarcoat it, because that's the fact. Knowing what took place throughout the history of Indonesia, but also because of the location.
Oh, yeah.
Indonesia is a crucial country to the West, and Indonesia now finds itself at crossroads, being a part of the ASEAN. They're thinking in terms of trade with China. You can't ignore that. It's a fact. So, do we side with the US? Do we side with China?
Well, where's our economic best interest? Who's our major trade partner? That votes.
Exactly. And that's how yes, we all hear about the corruption that's going on. And we know all this because not just to point it out in Indonesia, but it's around the world, most countries, whatever. But Indonesia has to. What always made me wonder, because I used to, when I studied the Asian security studies, because we had to do that part of the graduate programs and all that, I was always fascinated by the idea of how much talent and potentials that exist within Indonesia. And yet, the government is operating independently from what's good for the Indonesians.
There's some major think tanks that actually have their home offices in Indonesia.
Indeed.
Real smart people, international consulting in Indonesia.
Indeed, and that is where I see things moving forward with them. Ariel, good to see you, Ariel. Question: would it be better to develop the industries in Latino America in general, rather than allow countries to take resources without additional values? Venezuela didn't learn. Thanks. No, not as a whole, because that's almost, to give you an example of this, think of the European Union. Are all countries putting their weight in the European Union? No, because back then, I remember when I used to, a couple of decades ago, when I would go back to France, whatever, they used to use the individual currency, and it becomes a question, well, you're going to put the lira in Italy with the Dutch mark? The value is different. And this is where the European Union found itself by incorporating other countries that their economy is so low. It became a problem for them. Usually the EU will not admit it. I do see the same potential problems in Latin America. My arguments will be, and this is from an outsider looking in, because we did also Latin America security studies. We had to do around the world. So one of the things that I see is the major players in Latin America need to develop their own independent economy. Argentina, Brazil, Chile, you're talking about the major players. Then from that, I know they have the Mercosur alliance between the Latin American countries and so forth. But that's not enough. When you take, for example, a country like, Bolivia. Yeah. Well, Bolivia economy, you're not going to compare it to Brazil. It's just common sense. So, and this is where I see, for them to have a collective economic plan, it won't work. It won't work because that's going to create or pave the way for infiltration from the West into some weak-minded leaders, shall we say. So I hope I answered your question, Ariel. Doggy 5, good to see you. Do you think US will go to war in Latin America to purge it of Chinese influence? No, they won't, because they won't be able to. It's not about the issue of capabilities. No, that's not what I'm referring to. They won't be able to because other international conflicts that are far more pressing to the United States than Latin America. What's going on right now in Eastern Europe, that is far more pressing to the United States. What's going to be happening should there be a conflict regarding Taiwan, that is far more pressing than Latin America. In addition, the United States or NATO or the West will not be able to support two front wars. They just can't. They won't have to. It's not they won't have to. They can't.
They can't.
They can't. Period. So I don't see that happening. Bear with me. Good to see you. Question: do you think Argentinian people will see the help of China with a good eye? I think so. I do think so, because Argentinians themselves, I look at it no further than soccer. Soccer is sport, whatever. Where do you think most of the top players of Argentina end up living? They go to Europe.
Oh, that's right.
And once they retire, what do? Because they bring all their money back. So now, if you have the population, an average Argentinian who's not in the likes of Diego Maradona or Alberto Passarella or those good players, whatever, what if his or her economic conditions improve right at home? Doesn't have to go anywhere.
Nice.
Yeah, this is how I see it. So the idea of no, Argentinians will not see China in a negative way, because if it were the case, the government would have not approved the investments from China. Because remember, China's not doing it for free. I just to remind you, because there's no such thing in business. That's how it is. But the idea of the trust that Argentinians had in China versus the trust in IMF or the West, it became clear.
As an interesting aside, what we're beginning to see is a lot of immigration from China to Argentina.
Yeah.
And let's see it'll be interesting following that over the next decade as to what really happens.
That will be very interesting.
Very.
Yeah, demographically is always, demographics are there, very crucial. Next one, Joe, good to see you, Joe. Question: do you think Russia can use American troop movements in EU due to Ukraine crisis as an excuse to starting to deploy Russia weapons on the U.S. border, Cuba, Venezuela, instead to invade Ukraine?
Oh, we've been looking at that one.
We've been looking at
Venezuela and Cuba.
Yeah.
I saw this morning that there was one train of thought that said nuclear missiles are already in Cuba, aimed at the U.S. I don't know if it's true or not.
To my knowledge, it's not. But when you had the Swan, there is the Russian bomber. It's called the Swan, White Swan, and those are supersonic.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
they're big too.
Yeah, when you had that one, came to Venezuela about 2 years ago and landed. Those are nuclear. That was just a message sending. That's how quick Russia can mobilize its offensive weapons near the border. Of course, if they put them in Cuba, it's going to be an issue. But Russia is not about to do that. Why? Russia thinks strategically. This is why President Putin understood the geopolitics of Europe much better than the United States did. Believe it or not. And I do remember I had a conversation yesterday in Washington, D.C. with a talk show there. They called me, and it was this topic particular, and that's exactly what I addressed. I said, the understanding of Russia, of the geopolitics of the European continent, is far better than the United States understanding of it. Well, because of shared history.
Mm-hmm.
Europe is closer to Russia. So that's why the U.S. is not understanding. Now, I don't see Russia doing this. However, that does not mean that option is not on the table. It is, except for its due time. And it's not its due time right now. Oh, Gordon, thank you very much for your super stickers.
Thank you.
Speaking of super stickers, we do appreciate you guys because that's a form of support that means a lot to us. And I would like to give a shout out to Rafael. Last time when I did the break-in, Rafael gave us 2 super stickers. So I want to say thank you, Rafael, because I didn't have a chance to say thank you for the second super sticker. So I take this opportunity to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot. Question, Camilo, what will be the response of Britain regarding Falklands and the attitude of Russia, China in Argentina? Well, it's already sort of rubbed the Brits the wrong way. They didn't like it. And who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares if the Brits don't like it? Britain is in shambles. Britain is in a mess, political chaos internally. So, and yes, the issue of the Falkland is very sensitive to them. It's because, once again, and I remember because I was following that event back then, where Margaret Thatcher had a conversation with Ronald Reagan at the time and said, we're going to fight the Argentinians. And what Margaret Thatcher didn't realize is that she thought that they could intimidate the Argentinians. What Argentinians end up doing?
They fought.
They fought back and deployed their submarine. I remember that's what led to all this. They couldn't believe, Brits couldn't believe that Argentina would stood up to them.
Yes, I'm remembering about 250 Brits died. They sunk a multi-million-dollar vessel.
They did. So, and the Brits never forget that. Never forget it. So, and that's why you're going to see this attitude. Yes, US and UK, they're going to push very hard regarding now, because this is a change in the landscape, not to the favor of the West, US mainly here. And that becomes the question, is Monroe doctrine dead? It's a fair question. Next question. Manwei Zhang. Is that how you pronounce it?
I can't see it.
It's a Zhang. Zhang. Thank you so much for your super sticker.
Oh, that's Zhang.
Yeah. Zhang, we truly appreciate it. It is another super sticker from Art USA. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, guys. It means a lot. That's all I can say about this one. It means a lot to us because there is a lot of time and effort goes into what we do. All of us, we put in countless hours into all this. Why? Because we want to provide something of quality to you. Yeah, do we want to sit here and talk about silly stuff? No, we don't. I don't have that time to waste. But if I am to talk about something decent and intelligent, I'll be happy to put the time and effort. I'll get less sleep in order to ensure that the quality of the information we provide you and the understanding, like I said earlier,
understanding.
It is not enough to just have information if you do not understand it. And that's what we're trying to do. So your support, your super stickers, that's what it means to us, is to keep us moving forward and do more for you guys. So we thank you so much for that. Of Oro, thank you so much. And the question, will Mexico sign up to BRI in the future? And what are the consequences? Oh, that will be a seismic. It will be, yeah. If that happens, I don't even know what the outcome is going to be.
I can't imagine it happening since the U.S. and Mexico are such vital trade partners.
Big time.
Big time.
I mean, we look at it just instead of Texas. I think some stats that I saw, we do about $200 million a day with Mexico. So if Mexico goes that route, oh my gosh, you're talking about the end. That's it. That's the new landscape altogether. So there's a possibility to that. I can't guarantee this right now. I'll give it about 3 years or so to see how things move forward with Argentina. Wade, thank you so much, Wade. We truly, truly appreciate it. To all of you guys, it truly means a lot. And that's what keeps us moving forward. So we thank you all for your support. Question, Sarah Wolf, good to see you. Question, in your opinions, can you see a future where Latin America comes together like the EU?
I cannot. Can you?
Not at this moment. But it's because there are so many, the dynamics in Latin America are far different than the ones in Europe. And for one, when you are an analyst, you think in terms of geography, of course. You think in terms of the cultural, you think linguistically. There's a lot of elements that you have to take into consideration before you play out that scenario. What if? Of course, it will be great if they could. Can you imagine you have another Latin America Union?
I actually can't imagine it, but the geography alone,
exactly. So
and the number of cultures and languages in Latin America, hundreds.
Yeah, and you have to have leaders that think alike to move Latin America there. When I was in Bolivia, I could see just how the tribal mindset outside certain the capital and certain areas. If you have the leaders can think in those terms, yes, it could work. But for now, I don't see it happening. Oh, Wade, once again, thank you again, Wade. I appreciate it. And Lee, thank you so much, Lee, for your super sticker. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
I mean, we do have a good viewers, Ross. I mean, it means a lot.
Look at the quality of the questions or the comments.
It means a lot. And that's why we put in the time and effort into this. Question, Danizu Di Ocampo. The question is, I always thought that athletes here in America have been receiving financial support from the government. If it's only now that I know that they need private sector to support them. Is it true? Yes, it is. It is true. As a matter of fact, when athletes win the gold, whatever, and come back, they have to pay taxes on it.
On the gold?
Oh, yeah. They have to pay taxes on the proceedings. Yeah. It's the private sector. This is why in the US, the NFL, the National Football Association, or basketball, NBA, all those top athletes, they have sponsors, I mean, now you have it even in YouTube. You got sponsors. We don't have that kind of stuff. I mean, can you imagine, Ross, if we have sponsors, what kind of quality show we're going to be producing?
I can barely imagine.
So if any of you is a millionaire and would like to sponsor us,
bring it on. Bring it on.
We're ready for that. Just to go back to your question, no, the government doesn't support that stuff. What the government does is support, for example, the airfare, the travel, the arrangements, and all that in the case of Olympics. But for the athletes, no, they have to have their own sponsors. And that's usually how it works. Most of the sports around the world, athletes do provide that kind of stuff. All right, let me see next question. Gasta. Jaskam, good to see you. Our country is reluctant to leave the U.S. West umbrella due to the U.S. influence over the IMF, World Bank, and the SWIFT system. That is an interesting question. That one ties to the question whether, not the question, but rather it ties to whether this is the beginning of the end for the Bretton Woods system. Yes, because the amount of sanctions that the U.S. has been.
Yeah. And
this is where I see personally Russia and China, and I address those in my books, in my articles way back. I am not surprised at those dynamics because I'm not bragging here, guys, but I predicted that that's the route is going to go 6 years ago. It's what I'm seeing right now. So in the case of China and Russia, yes, they want to move from this because sanctions, when you sanction a country, what are you sanctioning? The financial sector. That's all it is. So if you get rid of the instrument that caused the harm, you can operate anyway. So yes, country is going to move forward, but to replace the dollar, you have to have a financial infrastructure that is sound, that can maintain those kind of, and that takes time to build. Oh, Bear, thank you, Bear. We appreciate your super sticker. Thank you so much. Question, is France going to be a major force to dismantle NATO?
Oh, is that an interesting one? Tracking what Macron is doing with Russia and Ukraine. And going, wow.
It is indeed, because France has a very influence inside NATO, but not as much as the US. Because remember, who managed the budget for NATO?
Oh, it's the US.
It's the US. And if you tend to manage a budget of any entity, you tend to have what? A say in it. You decide how things go. For NATO, yes, the questions have been coming. I addressed this yesterday on that interview in Washington, D.C. And I did say, we all know this is a fact. NATO is irrelevant. All these hypes coming out of NATO now regarding detention, it too is just to justify its existence. The problem Europe has is they need to come up, if we are to advise the European governments as a consultants, the first question we're going to tell them is, what kind of security architectures do you plan to have? Because that will be the fundamental question to ask. Till they can answer that. What I mean by that, security architecture that is independent from the US, of course.
Yes.
Till they answer that question and know what their capabilities are for them to do that, then they will be able to establish their own security architecture that is independent from the US. And in that case, NATO will cease to exist. But I don't think so they're ready yet. It's going to take them a while. But this current tensions is demonstrating the cracks that exist now within Europe. Alan Seen, thank you so much for your super sticker. We truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Just to go back quickly while I'm thinking about it, is this idea of the European security. I've been arguing this, that Europe needs to stand on its feet. They don't have an independent foreign policy, and they don't have an independent security architecture. To the US is kind of, well, I am questioning, why am I spending my tax dollar on protecting Europe? So. All right, question. Cheesecake, good to see you. Question, what is going to happen to the EU and US relationship in the foreseeable future? Better or worse? Now, I will go with the latter.
Worse.
But not, I won't use the term worse. I won't use the term worse. What the term I will use is a decline. Because there is a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Between a decline and being in a worse state, whatever. A decline usually will indicate the rift that exists internally between, because the U.S. transatlantic relations, have outlived their existence. Same with NATO. So it's not going to be worse, but you're going to start to see less and less communication, less and less consultations between Europe and the US regarding, like this issue with Russia right now.
Yeah.
Europeans have more stakes than the US, because here is the thing, and the reality that the West does not talk about much. In case there is a conflict, who do you think is going to be sacrificed first?
Oh, but it's Europe.
That's what it will be. That's what it will be. It's not the US. And this is where it's you're going to start to see the tensions, not tensions, but the cracks. The cracks now are expanding. And this is why you saw France and Germany met with Ukraine and Russia without the US. This is why you saw French President Emmanuel Macron went to Russia, went to Ukraine, German Olaf Scholz as well. And so this is where you see the... Okay. I think we came to an end. It's almost noon here because we're going to have to go. So we want to say thank you for all your super stickers. Once again, I take this opportunity because that support means a lot to us to keep moving forward. As I said earlier, and I'm not going to beat the dead horse here, it takes us a lot of time and effort to put all this stuff together, let alone the amount of hours that Elizabeth put behind the scenes to make all this available. Russ and I, we have nothing to do with tech. I'll say it. I'll use the basic stuff basically, but
Elizabeth was masterful at it.
Exactly.
And I'm worse than an amateur.
No worries. But this is what a team is all about.
Yeah.
So, but for you guys, just to understand, this is why we are making those slight changes, because we want to provide you a far better content that we have been for the last few months. You've been with us since the beginning, and your support means a lot to us. And this is where we count on you to support us also on the other platforms, because we want to grow as well there. And you will see, once we do our live stream over there, you will see how freely we're going to be talking. And we have a lot of stuff to share with you that we can unfortunately say it here, because that's what we've been dealing with. So we hope you have a good day, good afternoon, the rest of your day, whatever you may be. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.